Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here, and so I'm recording this video as I don't know when the last time I even uploaded was. Like, it's probably more than 2 weeks ago at this point. I don't even know. But I spent a lot of time thinking about if I would make this video and how I would. But here I am. So I just want to spend this time talking about a little bit about the state of Arena and essentially why I don't see myself wanting to really play it or make content with it anymore. So normally I keep my opinions on Arena relatively filtered, especially on YouTube, especially lately on Twitch. You might have seen a lot more of what I really think about it. But as much as I want to be transparent especially while making YouTube videos, it's not all that advantageous to me to really be too critical of it. And so normally I would follow the sense of, if you have nothing good to say, just don't say anything. But now I'm running out of nice things to say, so I don't have much else to say other than what I actually think about it. So I want to talk about, I guess, quickly first what I see about some of the biggest problems with the game right now and kind of why I've been pushing as hard as I have to keep doing it even through some of these problems, and then how I see myself whatever I see myself doing in the future. So the first problem, which is a pretty new problem, at least in the Western world as far as Arena, this year is the bots problem. A lot of you are probably already aware of this, but a lot of you probably aren't as well. So this is just a thing which I probably have talked about in some of my videos too, but I haven't specifically made a video about it because frankly I didn't want to draw that much attention to it, because I thought drawing attention to it might make it worse. It might incentivize or give more people the idea to actually do it themselves. But essentially the thing that people are able to do now, and they actually do now, is instead of playing the game as intended, you're able to buy accounts with a lot of gold on it, which frankly, it's not a lot of money to get an account with a lot of gold. So you can essentially use that to, instead of playing the game as intended, you only play the best decks you can get. There's also people selling really powerful decks and stuff. So a lot of people, especially if you're playing on Asia server, but also really a lot on America server as well, the game's been kind of ruined by a lot of people running around just playing like super overpowered decks. You can be at like 3-2 and face a deck that's better than any deck you've ever drafted in your life if you've been playing this game for 10 years. I mentioned this is a new problem because, well, specifically if you're from China, this was a huge rampant problem on the Chinese server that was completely ignored for the most part by Blizzard, as far as I'm aware at least. And as soon as that server got destroyed with the NetEase deal, there's a lot of politics involved, but essentially the business interaction allowed Blizzard to engage in China got shut down. So all of those people, or a lot of those people, it all just spread to all the other servers. Now there's a bunch of people in China that are doing that, but they're doing it on the servers that we actually play now. And if you watch any other streamers or creators for Arena, you've definitely probably heard them complain about it a lot more than I do, because I try not to even bring attention to it, because there's nothing, if you care about the game, there's not much that can really be done unless you're trying to apply pressure to Blizzard to fix it. But the thing is that honestly, it just seems like a very hard problem to fix. So I don't know if maybe they'll ever be able to fix it. Maybe they can, I don't know. But personally, it seems like a very hard problem for them to actually solve. So I don't have a lot of faith in them fixing it, at least quickly, personally. The other problem is that, and I think this is a compounding problem that gets exacerbated by the previous issue I just talked about, is that I simply don't enjoy the present state of the game right now. There's a lot of reasons for this, but one reason is balance. I didn't do a tier list video, so I can put it right now. Mage is way up here. There's a couple other good classes: Death Knight, Shaman, Warrior, Hunter. Look at HS Replay. I'm just looking at the win rates right now, and every other class pretty much is terrible. I mean, Rogue and Paladin are okay, but the other classes are terrible. There's like 4 just completely terrible classes, and one of them's Priest, which I guess we can appreciate, but unless you're a Priest enjoyer, then I apologize. But otherwise, I mean, this has been a pretty constant state, is that there have been just like many unplayable classes, and that makes the variety of the game a lot worse. But in addition, the balance at the top hasn't been particularly good either, and this doesn't seem like a thing that Blizzard seems to care about very much. They seem to be relatively okay with this. They do a balance change once a month if we're lucky, maybe, but really, you know, it's just as likely that a standard balance change comes in and just completely destroys the balance anyway, kind of like it did with the Rifts with Warrior. Ironically, that was probably the best meta we've had, because at least Warrior is a rather good overlord to have compared to like Major Priest that we had in other metas. But in any case, the point is that they really don't care a lot about the balance of the game, and there's a lot of reasons why that's not great. But you know, when a lot of whether or not you get like a number 1 or a number 10 on the leaderboard, for example, if you care about that, just comes down to whether or not you got offered mage 15 times or only 5 times. It makes the whole thing kind of silly. And you know, it just seems like the fact that they don't do much about it makes you think. I think they do actually care about the botting problem. I do know that they do care about that, but I think otherwise the state of the game is something they're relatively happy about, but just not really. It's not really something I want to engage myself with. But I also have a lot of thoughts about just the general state of the game, and I'll talk a little bit about the direction about the game, but you know, the increase in power level, the huge increase of class cards, making a lot of the decks the same and making the game feel very constructed like. This is just not something I enjoy, but I really don't want to spend that much time talking about that. There's a lot of stuff on my Discord or in my Reddit history on like Arena HS subreddit if you really want to hear more of my thoughts about that. I don't really want to make this video super long talking about all that, so I'm just going to move on from the current state of the game and talk about like just also why I don't have much faith in the future state of the game as well. And so it's possible I'm seeing this wrong, but this is just something that's been kind of my perception of how the devs have been taking a lot of the modes in Hearthstone. This is not just an arena thing, but really every mode, is that they seem to be taking all modes really towards one central idea of essentially what they think Hearthstone should be. And I've been someone where for almost a decade, frankly, I stopped mostly playing Constructed probably back in like 2015. I don't really like their idea of what like Hearthstone should be. Arena's always been a very different thing. But over time, again, as I mentioned earlier, they've been making Arena much, much more standard-like. So they're bringing, and there's a lot of other modes as well, that they all just seem to be converging towards the same idea of what Hearthstone is. And I think a lot of people agree. I know there's other content creators that some of them used to play Arena and don't play Arena, partially because Arena just doesn't. It completely fails to really function as a limited mode. And I think just the way I'm someone that just naturally would like a limited mode, but it just doesn't really function that way, and it's just becoming more and more like just another Constructed, basically. Sure, you get different cards sometimes, but it's still like you're mostly just playing the same decks as Constructed nowadays, just a little with some different cards, basically. And compared to, you know, like the rest of Standard, it's really just it's maintained at a much lower quality, and it's just essentially a bastardized version of like standard Hearthstone. I mean, it seems like they're converging everything towards the same point. You know, my macro thought of like what I would have thought the advantage of having all these different modes in Hearthstone would be to be able to cater to different audiences, right? You can have people at like Arena over here, people at like Duels over here, Battlegrounds over here, Standard over here, Wild over here, and this exists to some extent. But I don't think that's the way that the devs really see the game. I think they see it as that they have a Hearthstone audience that they are trying to cater to, and then they keep all these other modes around just so, okay, if you get sick of rather regular Hearthstone, maybe it's in a state you don't like, you're a combo player and it's a tempo meta, you're a tempo player and it's a control meta, whatever, then you get to just kind of go away and take a break from that mode and maybe go play some Arena over here, or play some Duels over here, or whatever. They don't actually intend that you're actually going to be sitting there playing Arena all the time. And it's one thing that's I've kind of thought for a long time, that they've never said anything really to us directly, but I've always kind of gotten the sense that they're always kind of shocked that there's even people that actually still try to take Arena seriously at this point. It's just, they're like, really? Okay, well, yeah, we'll give you a balance change this month then, I guess. Let us know how it is. We'll check in again in 2 months. And at the end of all of this idea, I guess, like, well, it's like if every mode is essentially the same, why would I play this one? Why would I focus so much time on this one where it just gets so much less attention? There's so much less to gain from playing it, frankly, and all of this stuff. And there's just a lot less skill development to be done because I do care about like actually trying to improve at what I'm doing. And, you know, I can focus on my content creation or whatever, but I want my content largely to be about the game, and I just don't see a lot of room to improve there. I can continue to perform endlessly at a high level, I guess, but there's so few people up at the top that I'm even competing with, because pretty much anyone that was capable of actually performing at a high level has moved on to something better, and that's kind of where I see myself. It's like, maybe I should try to do something a little bit better with my life. So some of these things are new, but some of these aren't, so I just want to talk about like what kept me going all this time. Because one thing that I think a lot of people might be surprised to know is that I never was addicted to Hearthstone in the same way that a lot of other content creators are. A lot of people that play this game were playing because it's like, oh, they just really wanted to play Hearthstone. And it's like, oh, if I'm playing 8 hours a day, I might as well stream or whatever. It's like, that really was never the reason I did it. I thought content creation would be really cool, and that was something that I might want to do. So playing this game was just the best way I could get to actually produce content that people would want to watch, essentially. And since I was really good at Arena, it seemed to work out really well. But I've always believed a lot of these kind of negative things about just the direction that the devs are taking the game in and stuff like that. And, you know, I was always kind of doing it in spite of these things rather than because I actually believed in the way the game was going to be, essentially. Ultimately, while the game was still in a rather enjoyable state for me, I thought it was still something I might continue to want to do. But now it's gotten to this point where the game, like, it's just streaming this game, playing this game a lot has just become very unpleasant to me, and it takes a lot of sacrifices. There are a lot of things I should be doing and could be doing that I'm not doing because of how much I play this game, and at this point it just does not seem worth it for me to continue to spend a lot of my time doing this. So what does this mean for the future? It's like, well, I've been playing some Battlegrounds lately because it is the mode that I see as being the most maintained and best mode in Hearthstone right now, but what I've learned is that Battlegrounds is actually really, really hard. I can't really, it's going to be very difficult if I actually want to make content at a high level that I would like to for that game, and frankly, it might be something that, not that I think I couldn't do, but the level of investment might just be beyond what I'm able to put into it at this point to really transition fully into it. I don't want to close that door, but I'm not sure if that's really going to happen at this point. And as I mentioned, I just don't see it being a super productive thing for me to continue just grinding Arena content because I just don't see a lot of long-term value there. So even if I want to transition to some other kind of content creation, I just think it'd be better for me to focus on more generalizable skills, I guess, rather than just trying to play this game and, you know, try to make innovative content somehow with it. I don't even know. Because frankly, I feel like even if I am underestimating the devs and maybe they do a lot more to make the game better in the near future, I just don't think it's going to happen because I don't see them putting a lot of effort into it. But if they surprise me, I can probably come back and then not much will be lost. I know there are people like Trump, for example. You guys probably watch him. He just goes away from Arena for months and comes back and it's fine, right? So maybe that'll be me. I don't know. But like right now, I just don't see a point in grinding endlessly into it. And so, I mean, the only other thing to say is like this probably won't be my last video, most likely, but I'll probably still play the game a little bit, and I might stream a little bit as a hobby now and then, but like I think it's the end of me regularly doing this, at least for the time being. I'm going to be focused on just other things, essentially. And I've thought about making content for some of these other things, a lot more serious, like life things, but I don't want to make any promises right now. But maybe I'll try, put some vlogs out, but I don't know about that. But anyway, but with that, I don't think I have much else to say, so appreciate you all. See ya.